What's up guys, Jake here with JakesGotHerps, not to be confused with herpes. Herpes is nasty, and in this video I want to share with you how to pick out a leopard gecko. Now, I always recommend leopard geckos as first pets, but how do you actually pick one out? How do you know which one is going to be the best pet for you? This definitely depends on your level of experience, I think. You know, if you've been keeping geckos or reptiles in general just for a very long time, then it might be a good idea to check out your local Craigslist, because a lot of the times there'll be animals on there that people are trying to get rid of that maybe haven't been kept in the best conditions, that may, need a second chance at life, and if you can provide that for them, then by all means, I think you should definitely do that. But if you're a first-time reptile owner and you're just getting a leopard gecko, there's a lot of things you need to look for when getting your gecko to make sure it's going to be a healthy gecko. When you bring it home, it's not going to die right away, because that's obviously a very heartbreaking experience, losing any pet, even if you've only kept it a short amount of time. So the first thing that you need to look at when getting a leopard gecko is the tail. The tail is pretty much like the indicator for the leopard gecko and how well it's being fed. If it's malnourished, it'll have a really skinny tail. If it's getting a lot of food and vitamins and things like that, it'll have a nice fat tail like Jerry here. I mean, they can even be fatter than this. This is a pretty, I'd say he's got a pretty average sized tail, but they can be very thick. I've broken some of my fingers and they can be as thick as my fingers are around. But you want just a nice plump looking tail. If it's kind of skinny and the skin kind of sags around it, then that's probably not a good thing. They're probably malnourished, or they just don't accept food for whatever reason, and that's due to a lot of different problems. You also want to look at their heads. Now, the way the camera is, it's going to be hard to see his head, but you want them to have bright eyes and open eyes. Now, right now his eyes are closed because I'm using the light on my camera, but in general, you want their eyes to be open and alert and active looking. If their eyes are crusted shut or sinking in their head, chances are they're very dehydrated, and that can lead to a lot of different problems that are very bad for your gecko. One of those is obviously dehydration. If they're dehydrated, then they can have kidney problems and a lot of other problems that you just don't want to deal with if it's your first time keeping a gecko. Another thing to look at is their nostrils. If they have a really runny nose, then chances are they have a upper respiratory infection, which is not good either. You definitely don't want to be dealing with that. And another thing to look at is just their body in general. If they have a fairly, toned looking body, obviously they're not going to have a six-pack of abs, but if their legs and their body are pretty thick around, pretty plump, then that's obviously a good thing. That means they're eating right. They are, not malnourished or anything. They're well nourished. That's an important thing to look at. Another thing you can look at is their toes. If they're missing a lot of toes, that can be another sign that their humidity wasn't high enough in their enclosure previously. Because a lot of the times the shed, if it doesn't come off the toes, it'll stay on their toes, and eventually it'll cut off the circulation, and the toes will just fall off, as weird as that is. And one other thing you can look at is their tail. If their tail is not long, if they have a chode tail where it's wider than it is long, chances are it's a regenerated tail, and you might just want to ask about the tail and how that happened. If it was a stress related issue, you might want to not consider that animal. But if it's just from maybe another leopard gecko biting it perhaps, then it's probably not going to be a bad gecko if it has all these other things that I've been pointing out. Nice alert eyes, not a runny nose, has all of its toes, which rhymes, and its tail is nice and thick. So that's just some things you can look for when picking out your leopard gecko. There's obviously a lot more things you can check out when getting a leopard gecko, and I definitely recommend, if you're getting your first pet, to take it to the vet right after you get it, just to be completely sure it doesn't have any parasites or any other things that you can't see visually that might cause it to have problems in the future. It's always good to have a healthy pet, especially when you're just starting out getting them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative to you, because I've never really answered this question before, and I thought it was a good one. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.